So Al Jaffe, who was a legendary artist and writer for Mad Magazine, died a little over a month ago at the age of 102. He was born in 1921. And when I was a kid, I had bought. I would have been really young at the time, so I'm sure they were bought for me. Um, Different books, Dave Berg's. We have Spy versus Spy, and then of course we have Al Jaffe. And Al Jaffe was absolutely brilliant. But I'm actually going to talk about Don Martin. And Don Martin, he died in 2000, so he died over 2 decades ago. He was only 68 at the time. And so after Al Jaffe died, I started going through these books again and just kind of, because I hadn't read them, but gosh, probably since possibly the 80s. So it's been a long time. And so I was reading up on Don Martin, because as I was going through these books, this one was the one that hit me the hardest. They said they promoted Martin as Mad's maddest artist. And so this is kind of what he's got, a very distinctive art style with that long face and the bulbous nose and the eyes, a lot of cross-eyed eyes. And this is kind of what I remember from my childhood, which is kind of the goofiness, the corniness. You know, it says I don't know, Schlitz. He's got the chicken on his head, laying an egg, tongue wagging out. Then he's got a walking his cat with fake nose and glasses and mustache. And so that's kind of what I thought about when I thought about Don Martin. And the first joke in here is this couple's walking through in his Phone Bones shoes. Phone Bone is a name he used a lot. Phone Bones glasses, Phone Bones wigs, Phone Bones swimsuit. And then the punchline is that there's Phone Bone and he's wearing them all and he's gigantic. So that's kind of the humor that I remember from Al Martin. So I'm going through and I get to this one. A guided tour through a steel foundry. And so we have this fellow just guiding a group through this foundry. And all of a sudden, bam, this device drops down on them. And now we shall proceed to the cooling room. And my reaction was, oh my God, look at that. I mean, I know it's cartoon physics and all, and they're still alive, but it's kind of a gruesome sight. And it was a little surprising. It's not that I was bothered by it. I was just, it kind of shocked me. And then I'm going through, we have another one here, the electricians, where they're fixing, the woman is having problems with her toaster. And so these electricians coming in and they're trying all sorts of, well, I guess it goes here, trying different things. And so at some point, I guess the lead electrician gives it to his young assistant, and the electrical wires just cause him to short out, and he's, I guess, dizzy. But there's something just kind of gruesome about the blank stare, the jaw just hanging down, and then the man tilts his head back, puts toast in his mouth. He's just now a human toaster. And again, it's like, that is gruesome. That is just so gruesome, the very idea of that. We have here another one. It looks like almost the same couple, except I think that's supposed to be maybe two boys, and he's showing him the doll. It's a wind-up doll. The head pops off, and he's angry because he, I don't know, over-tightened it or something. So eventually, we'll get to it. The guy here takes the key, sticks it in his belly, and then his head pops off. And he's just walking along like a mindless automaton there. And it's like body horror. And I'm thinking, man, I guess he really is the maddest artist. You know, that's not, this guy's just sitting there talking to some fellow in the water as the water is receding, and they're just chatting. There's a piece of driftwood and old. And then as the water recedes far enough, he sees that it's just a severed head. Oh, God. Another body horror one where some slack-jawed fellow you got a nearsighted guy and this fellow who's just standing there, and because he can't see, He sticks a coin in his ear and starts dialing his eyes, puts his hand up. I guess he's okay, but a boy comes along, opens his mouth up, and pulls a coin out. That's some twisted. Here we have a guy walking along, and he finds a cigarette, kind of an old-timey joke. I guess he's a homeless person. Call him a bum. Comes along, sees this smoking pile, and lights his cigarette, and it turns out that it's the dead body of a protester. Back in the 70s and 60s, protesters would sometimes light themselves on fire. We have the classic 98-pound weakling with the muscle guy, and so of course he pulls out his muscle builder, and then right there he's using this one of these old devices that they used to have for strength building, and he's doing it, and I guess he actually has instantly developed some muscles, and then he takes his head and just stretches it in a horrific image. The unfortunate part of feeding pigeon homemade popcorn. So this guy comes along, these people are feeding the pigeons, he comes along and feeding, and the pigeons are going crazy. I guess his popcorn must be exceptional. And not only are the pigeons, but the people are also eating the popcorn because it's so good, and then everyone is just going crazy for his popcorn. And it turns out, he says, "Hey, mister, this is the best popcorn I ever tasted. How do you make it?" "I make it with arsenic." So he says, "I hate pigeons." But he's killed everybody. The pigeons, the people, everyone. Everyone is dead because he fed them poisoned popcorn. This is one where I guess maybe the wife is jumping on a pogo stick. So the guy takes it, throws it out the window. There's a guy standing outside. The pogo stick lands in his mouth and changes his body into like a human pogo stick. Doctor examines him and decides to take him to the hospital by riding him like a pogo stick. The hitchhiker, it's the old time California or bust. Car goes by, and he just says the heck with it. Blows himself up by putting his thumb in his mouth, and then busts. So he explodes. His body explodes. This is one where the doctor has an idea that he can do surgery better if he has a frozen patient, so he puts him in a freezer, and then when he opens the freezer up, the patient falls out and shatters into ice cubes. One of those old health spa weight reducing. They use a hot steam, and the guy opens it up, and it turns out somebody's been in there too long, and they have turned into a melted pile of mush. This one is particularly gruesome. So he says, "God, it's John Phonebone. He's apparently been run over by a steamroller. We better get him to the doctor quick." So apparently he's still alive. In fact, you can see there the little lines that he's dizzy. So they take him and they fold him in order to transport him easier. Fold him, and then in the classic, muscle guy comes out, nearsighted strongmen's club, sees the folded up guy and just tears him in half. And this one is really gruesome. So we have the lover's lane, the old knife in the tree. They go and he carves a heart with the arrow through it. Another couple comes up. Oh, look at that. They sit there, carve, and he has carved a heart into her head. You can even see the blood on the knife as he tosses it aside. God. On the road, we have a steamroller. Guy's painting the road. It just crushes him, flattens him. And so the fellow rushes over and paints the road to hide the flattened body. This one guy's drilling into the ceiling and hits something, and it turns out there's a yoga class going on, and he drilled into the guy's head. This one's not really that gruesome, but it's kind of funny. So the guy goes up, paints, "My wife is an immense fat freak," and then you could see that he's painted on her rear end. "Whatever you're doing back there, stop it." Yes, dear. These jokes, I don't think these jokes would, a lot of these jokes wouldn't go over today. Another electrician, the guy's teaching him how to use, showing them a fan, and he says, "Now if you all watch closely, not that closely," and it chops their noses off. You can see their noses flying out. Another gruesome joke. "Hello, dear, where are the children?" "I don't know, upstairs, probably with their ears glued to that stupid portable radio." And they literally have their ears glued to it. And you can see that there are just holes in their head where their ears used to be. Guy sitting there, relaxing in the optometrist. So another one where the person has vision problems. The woman says, "There's an interesting looking chair. And comfortable too. Next, please." And his body is crushed, and his face is now formed into her butt cheeks. Another one where the head, this is another old time joke. Guy want to watch the game, so he drills a hole in the fence around the stadium, and he says, "Perfect." And he has drilled a hole right through one of the ball players' heads. Another kind of body horror where they call the president, need some money, and starts fiddling with his eyes, and then his mouth opens up like a cash register. We have a hunter, and he sees the bird, and "Oh no, don't do that, don't do that. Shame on you." So he lets the bird fly away. The bird lands on his head, and in the final scene, he grabs the bird and consumes it with an evil look on his face. So I don't remember the jokes being like this when I was a kid. They must have passed over my head, because these are really, really gruesome jokes. So it was quite eye-opening for me. But anyway, so that's Don Martin, who, like I said, he passed away about 23 years ago, but he was a mainstay at Mad Magazine for years. In fact, this book, let's see, so we got jokes from 1957 to 1974. This book was produced in 74. Well, first printing in 74. I don't know what, I mean, I would have been 4, so I'd been too young. Maybe they probably had this book out for years, so I could have been less than 10. And so it's not surprising that I wasn't really recognizing how gruesome these jokes are, but it really is a contrast with kind of the art style of him to see that kind of violence played out. And even though it's basically cartoon physics, it's a lot of body horror and really gruesome imagery. So anyway, that's Mad Magazine's Don Martin.